wisdom, which camest out of the mouth of the Most High, and reachest from one end to another mightily, and sweetly ordering all things. Come and teach us the way of prudence.
Welcome again to Chant for today. Today's a special day, one of my favourite sort of minor days in the liturgical year, in that it's the day that these special antiphons, called the O Antiphons, which run from the 17th until the 23rd of December, begin to be sung. They're used at before and after the Magnificat, which is the sort of high point of evening prayer or evensong in our Anglican tradition, although not heard sung that often or in that many places these days. You would hear them often in monastic communities. Today's text, O Wisdom, O Sapientia, addresses Christ by this name, Wisdom. It's a kind of complex interweaving of texts from the biblical book of Wisdom and Ecclesiasticus, these books from what some Protestant churches would call the Apocrypha, the texts that were excluded when the Bible was was reordered, or the European Bible, as it were, was reordered a bit by Martin Luther and those working at the Reformation. It speaks about Jesus in these terms of wisdom. It addresses God by this name, Wisdom, which, although it's a kind of personal name and a feminine personal name, it's not naming a person in the sense that the persons of the Trinity, Father, Son and Holy Spirit, name a person. It's more naming the fundamental unity of God, and the way that unity of God is in a way that we can comprehend, in a way that's made clear to us in the coming of Jesus. So it's a bit like in the letter to the Colossians, Paul talks about Jesus as, he says, he is before all things, and in him all things holds together. This is the wisdom, the force of God, which holds creation together. All the antiphons are marked by this word come, by this plea, come, Lord, which acknowledges in some ways that Christ is among us. There's this ambiguity in the Aramaic, Maranatha, this prayer often used by the early Christians, which both in one sense says, you are coming, Lord, and it is also a plea for the Lord to come amongst us. So there's a sort of now and the not yet. We know that Jesus is with us in the Eucharist, and yet we know there's more to come, that there's more to be had. And as I've said so many times in this season of Advent, we're pleading for, looking forward to the coming of Christ at the end of time. But now, of course, at this stage in Advent, we turn more towards Christ's coming as an infant child, as a human being, which we remember and celebrate at Christmas. There's this sense, we know he is coming, but there's also this profound desire of our hearts, which Christian faith seeks to connect with and to give voice to. Come, Lord, come and bring your healing, bring your hope. And of course, in this antiphon, the come is followed by what might seem a bit of a modest request. Come and teach us the way of prudence. We might, if we think of the four classical virtues, prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude, Christianity, certainly in our own age, has been associated more often with temperance, probably, and perhaps with justice in some of its activist strains. Perhaps there's fortitude in the sort of forms of muscular Christianity which we see. But prudence can be a hard thing to get excited about, and yet it's a key virtue and key that what we're being invited to sort of ask as we join in this prayer, what we're being invited to seek from God, is not an ideal, not a kind of stringent ascetic imposition on us or on anyone else, but prudence, God's wisdom worked out in the very fleshly, very ordinary, very realistic bits of human life. Wisdom worked out in our day-to-day living, our day-to-day working, our day-to-day relating with one another, asking God, by your wisdom, help me to live in such a way that I connect with my own feelings and my own needs and the feelings and needs of others, that we build a world which can be, in practical terms and not just idealistic ones, a place of peace and a place of justice and a place of goodness. And I will try and sing it to you now in its original Latin form.
O Sapientia, quae ex ore altissimi prodisti, attingens a fine usque, at finem fortitae, suavite disponensque omnia, veni ad docendum nos, viam prudentiae.